Hi everyone, today we're going to be making a basic ASP.NET MVC application with the main CRUD operations. We will start by connecting the project to a SQL Server database. We will then create a model, also known as a table in the database. And after, we will handle the backend and the front-end side of the application. So in other words, we will make a small full stack project. Make sure to keep watching. Firstly, we can open the Visual Studio. We need a new project. And we should select as a template an ASP.NET Core MVC or Model View Controller. I have one already there from the previous work I've done. We can put it a name here, just whatever you want. I'm selecting MVC project. Click next. You will leave all this as default. And this should now create the project now. So this is an empty project. You can see on the right side we have the controllers, default controller, we have the models and the views which are created from the template. And we're going to add in this tutorial one model and one controller and the views for that controller. Until this finishes loading, we can start without debugging the project. And this should be the application, the web page that is created at the start. We should now go to the models, create a new model. So a model is basically a field in the database or a table. We can name this customer. We'll make an example in this tutorial. We can create a customer model. We'll put it some properties like it must have an ID property as an int, a name property as a string. We can create an email and an address. And we can put a date time, a birth property with the date time as the type of the variable. So the next thing that we have to do, we have to create a data folder, which is the folder that is usually created when we need to create a context. Inside the data folder, we need to input the context, which basically makes the connection between the database and the models. We'll give it a name like MVC context or something similar. Click add, and then this is here. We need to extend the DB context interface. First of all, we have to go to dependencies and manage Nugget packages, because we need some packages for our project. Let's import all what we need right now. Need the entity framework core, which has some functions that we need. You can read them here on the description. Just click install. We'll wait until this finishes, and then we need the SQL Server, because we need this to connect the project with the SQL database. There are some commands that it has that the project requires. and the entity framework core tools. We need this in order to work with the migrations of the database. So let's go back to the context. This shows some errors. We need to import Microsoft Entity Framework Core, which we already downloaded. And then here I copied it from the documentation of Microsoft. We just need to add a constructor to this context with the name MVC context. So now we need to create an instance of the model we just created. So for each model we create, we need an instance of it in the context file, which is of type customer, and then we add the name customers, for example. The syntax is just like this. We need to import the data folder because the customer type is not known. Next, we need to connect our project with the SQL Server database. We go to connect the database here. Now we create a new SQL Server database. The server name we can find after we have installed. We can open the SQL Server to see the server name we have. We'll just wait until this loads. So just copy and paste the server name here. Just connect. Just paste it here. Do we just put a name to the database we want to create? You can name it whatever you want. I'll write test data or yeah, okay. Here on the properties window, we need to copy the connection string, which has all the information, the database name, the server name, and we need to store it in appsettings.json because this tells our application the location of the database we are using. We just write connection strings and then we just give it a name like default connection string. And here we just need to paste whatever copied, the connection string name. The data source is the server name. Then we see the name of the database. So this basically connects our project with the address of the SQL Server. And then in program.cs we need to import a service. We need to paste a service, which I have already copied down from the Microsoft documentation. I have just edited the MVC context, so the context name above, and the connection string, which I have put it. So yeah, here's the MVC context, and then the connection string name is default connection string. So right now we just need to add the migrations that we've done. So just save whatever so this basically saves in the database the model that we have created. Every time we create a model, we need to go to Tools, Nugget, Package Manager, and we need to add migration. Add migration, and we just put it a name, whatever we want, like initial migration or something. Doesn't matter the name, it just shouldn't be the same after you add another model. Okay, so firstly we needed to run the project, and then we needed to execute the migration. So everything is saved. The build started, build succeeded. The next thing we need to do, so now this creates a migrations folder with whatever we created in the model. And we need to update the database. So because we don't have a password in our SQL Server, we just need to add another property in the string, the connection string. We just need to make it encrypt to false, so it can connect without a password to that database. Sometimes when you just need a password, when your database has a password, you can write there, instead of this, you can write the password of the database. So right now everything is fine, the migration is done. So we have the customer model stored in the database as a table. Everything now is good. We just need to create a controller, a customer controller. So this basically now just the controller basically just connects the model. So it gets the data from the model and then it displays it on the front end of the application in the views that we will create later. So a default method is the index method. Just before we start working, we need to import MVC project models, so we can get access to the model that we created. And we need the context here, because with the context we get data from the database, and we also store them in the database. That's the structure of the ASP.NET MVC application. So we just need to make a constructor. We need to import also the data folder, because it contains the context that we created. Firstly, we need to write a variable to store the context of type MVC context, and then name whatever you want, like underline context. And then in the constructor that we need to create, we just put the type MVC context, just the name context, and then we just give the variable underline context the value of the context from the constructor. So firstly, we can just start the first method in the controller, which is the index. Whatever the index contains, whatever we see when we load the customer page. So we can just make it an asynchronous function. Await context dot customers, which is the name of the model, of the context with the model that we created, to list async. So this basically just lists all the information that we have stored in the customer's context. This is whenever we have an asynchronous function, we need to name it just like this, async task, and inside we need to put iAction result. So this right now is okay, but we just need to create in the views folder, we need to add a folder for the customer view. Just name it customer. We'll add a view, and we name it the index. The name of it should be the same as the name of the method that we had. Just delete this one. And okay, so we need to import the model list. So we will import it as a list, whatever we have stored in the models.customer model. So whatever the table customer has, we will have it as a list, and then the view data basically contains whatever the title is in the small title in the tab when the page loads. So we'll give it a name like index, just like that. Just give a h3 index, just to name, just a title for the page. Just open up Google to get a table from Bootstrap, so we don't have to work so much with the styles. I'm just copying this down and edit it. Just paste it in here. So I'm going to delete some of the styles and all, and the names of this. So firstly, in the table header, we need a name. What were the properties of the customer model? The email. So we have a name, an email, and a birth, because we don't need the ID. Birth date. Just delete the last one. So we need a for each loop to loop through every item that we have stored in the customer model, in the customer table. So for each customer in model. So we need some parentheses. Something is wrong. We need to put a type of the customer, just like a variable, whatever it is. It may be. It could be int, it could be name, whatever, because they are different. We just put var there. So for each item, for each customer in the model, we will have to take the customer dot name, and customer dot email, and customer dot birth. But usually when we have a table with the name, email of each item, we just need a link there to edit or delete the item on the table. So we just need an A tag, an anchor tag, so we need the property ASP_action, which basically specifies the name of the method which it takes, which is the method that we will create later in the customer controller. ASP we need ASP_out property, so we can select each item on the table with their specific ID. I think it's just ASP_out. Okay. So at customer.id. So we just copy this and we do the same thing for the delete action. So the action is delete, which we will create later, and we just change the name of the anchor to delete. So we just try to see the project. Okay, so we have to run it firstly. So because the name of the controller is customer controller, whenever we go to the tab with the controller name, it takes us to whatever we have in the index method in the customer controller. So here we can see this is created, everything is okay because we have not put anything in the database yet. Next thing, we need to create another method in order to create items or customers to store it in the database. So we just write public iActionResult create. We give it the name create. So whenever we go to the link /create, we will go to whatever we do in this method, to the path that this method leads to. Just a return view. We just need to create another view in the customers view folder. Just delete this and import the model. What we need here, the MVC project dot models dot customer, and we need to put a name to the view data title. So this is just the title of the page that we can read on the tab bar. Just put it a title like create or yes, create. So we can just we just need a form, a bootstrap form as a template, so the form looks better. So I'm just gonna copy this one. This looks okay. So this has all the styles that we need, so that we don't have to create ourselves. It's easier to work with Bootstrap templates. I'm just going to delete some information here. So the first item in the first in the form will be the name, a label for name, and the input type is text for the name. We'll leave this as they are. We don't need this. We need to put an ASP4 with the name. So with the name. So this basically links whatever we write here. This links it to the name of the property in the database. When we submit the form in the controller, you will see this later. I'm just gonna copy. I forgot something. Okay. Now it's better. I'm gonna remove this and enter email. So placeholder, enter the email. And now the last one is the label for the birth property. You can just write another name here, date of birth. Input type is going to be date, which contains only the date, not the hour. Date type contains both. And here we can ASP.4. In ASP4 property, we need the name of the property. I think it is almost done. We can check now, / until this loads. Okay, / create. This should take us to the page that we just created. Yeah, everything works okay. Okay, so now we need to create a method for the post. Okay, we need an anchor, a header here, like h3 header. Create a customer, just create whatever you want. So we need a post method right now with the same name, create. But this now has to be an async method because we will take data from the context, from the database. So this as a parameter, as an argument, this takes this bind and then the name of the properties or of the property of the inputs that we put in it. So this binds everything that we will input from the form to the database. So we have ID, name, email, and the birth from the form that is submitted to this method. And we just write here the name of the data that we import here. So whatever we take from the form, we want it to handle it as a customer model, as a customer object. Okay, so no, everything is okay. So firstly, we need to check if the model form imported is, if the model is valid. So what we are taking from the form is valid. If this is the case, then okay, so I have a problem here. So all of the properties need to be in one parenthesis. Okay, this is better now. Back to the model state. So we will add this in the context. Whatever we take from the form, the customer object, we will add this to the context. So basically to the database, and then we will await and save the changes made to the context. And then we will just return, redirect, to action, index, and in case the form is not valid, we will just return to the previous page, to the same page, return view to the create page. I forgot to, in the form we can add the ASP action property, which links the form to the create method. I think everything has to work now. If we go to the create/create, okay, just a name, an email, just whatever. You can select a date, submit. Okay, so when I made the index view, I just wrote down there some anchors with some methods that we have not created yet. So we just need to go there and comment them out. This is in the index.html. Okay, we just need to comment this out. For the moment, we cannot use them, but I think it has to work now. So basically, we just stored them in the database and we displayed the customer there. Everything works now. But we can just format the date here because we just don't need the birthday to be with the hour of birth. So we just need to make it to string, just the format of a normal date. Okay, when we load this now, the hour is gone, so it looks better now. So the next method that we need is so we just need an edit method. just takes an ID as a parameter, as an argument. So we just create a variable of customers, and we take from the context, we use the first or default async method. So we can take from the context, we can find the customer object that we need from the ID. And we can return the view with that customer. Okay, so this is an asynchronous function. We need an await keyword here. We need to create another view, an edit view in the customers folder. Okay, so just edit that C# HTML. So we need to import the model, the MVC project.model.customer. The title of this tab, we're gonna write it as just, I don't know, edit. So we put a title, a header, edit customer. Okay, this is basically the same as we can copy this and make the changes needed. Just copy the form. Just that this time when we enter the edit page, the input and all will be already filled. We'll have the values in it. We just can change them later, but we will see this. We just need to change the action to edit, which links this form to the edit method in the controller. Okay, so now we can just uncomment this, or at least the edit anchor. Change this to edit, and I think this is ISP ID. And okay, I'm starting the project to see if I've made any mistake. Okay, we can click to edit. Okay, right now I just need to make a post method, which is similar to the create post method that we made above. So I should just write HTTP post here, and I need to change the name to edit, and this method also needs it needs another argument, which is the ID of the object or of the customer that we will edit. Everything else, okay, we can just write here the update method. And I think everything remains the same. Just try this one more time. Okay, we can just try to change the name, and the name is changed. So until now we can create and edit from the database. The one last thing that we need to do right now, we just need a delete method. So this is similar to the edit method. We just need to change the name. It takes an ID as an argument. I just need to add one more view, the delete view. Okay, I need to import the model MVC project.models.customer again. We can put it a name of the title. We can put a name to the title in the tab. So just the title, just put it as delete. An H3 header. Are you sure you want to delete the customer or something? And okay, so at model.name. We can just write down also the email and the birth. And below we need, of course, a form in order to delete the customer. So the ASP4, it links the form to the method in the controller, to the name delete, which we will create in a bit. So we need an input with the ID of the customer object, but we can set the type as hidden, because we don't need to see the ID of each object. So the property it takes is the ID. So the next input has to be of type submit. Okay, now we can edit this out. We can comment this out because we need a link in order to delete each element in the table. Okay, just run the project, start without debugging, and we should see a delete link here. Okay, are you sure you want to delete this customer? We can do better with the styling, I know, but just put there some class, some bootstrap class in order to style it, to make it a red button. I hope I didn't make this worse. Okay, this is worse. I shouldn't write the delete value to placeholder, just the value as delete, and the form controls. So I need to, okay, it should just be button and button danger. Button should be smaller right now. Okay, this is okay. No, I mean, I can do better there, but we just have one more thing now left to do. We just need to make a post method for the delete route. So public async task delete we need a customer variable to store the element, the customer that we want to delete. Okay, so the problem is that we cannot have two methods with the same argument. So the post and the get method both have the same argument, the same types and name of the... Okay, I'm finishing this first. Just find async ID. We will remove this from the context customers and save the changes and redirect to the index. But as I was saying before, the problem here is that we cannot have two methods. Okay, I should just handle the case when the customer is null. So I'm just creating an if loop and I'm storing the lines below inside of it. I was saying we need to change either the name of the method or, I mean, I could change the name of the method in the form as well, but I can just change the action name here as delete, so it doesn't change from the get method. I mean, I could just leave it as delete confirmed there, but I had to go to the form and change the name as well, so you can do both. Yeah, that works. That delete. I assume there is a problem in the form, in the HTML page, I think, or yeah. Okay, this has to be just ID. This takes forever sometimes, but okay, this doesn't work again. This hasn't worked again. Okay, so the problem is that ASP, it should be the ASP action, not ASP4. Okay, the tag name was wrong. This has to work now. So it worked, everything's okay now. The functions are complete. In the next videos, I will be making other projects with more advanced functionalities and with more models in the database. Thank you for watching and make sure to subscribe for more videos.